Hello and welcome to the Building Chinese Irish podcast. I'm your host, Grace speaking, and today we're talking about the 80% rule. So what is the 80% rule? So the 80% rule, it's not created by Hank Green, but he's a viral video where he talks about the 80% rule, which is when you're making a project of some kind, aim for it to be 80% good, and then stop there and move on. Because the time that you'll spend making the last 20% great will almost double the time that you've already spent in putting into your project. My first chosen career, I should say, is in animation. I studied animation in college and then I got a job. And one of the things that they taught us was that 80% of the work that you're doing is for 20% of the audience, because the vast majority of people that watch what you're doing with animation, they don't see any of the nuance. They just see the kind of big blocky movement or whatever. They can't tell the difference between good animation and bad animation. But we spend 80% of our time working on a scene for the people who can tell the difference between good animation and bad animation. That goes by in the blink of an eye. This is not very motivating. I guess it's like fine dining chefs or something. Most people don't have palates that can really taste what's going on in a delicious dish that they spend most of their lives preparing and cooking to be able to make at that level. They just go, nom nom, tastes good. And that's how it is for animation as well. It's like you spend so much time and effort to make something that goes by in the blink of an eye. People are just like, oh yeah, it looks good. I don't even know what I saw, So, they taught us that, and I was just kind of like, the lesson was that, yeah, you should know this, but do it anyway, because you want to be great. You want to be a good animator, one of the great animators, right? So even though not many people notice what you're doing, you should put the effort in, and that's the expectation. That's what I was taught when I went to Animation Mentor, which is like this online animation school, and I was taught by some really great people that worked for Pixar and Weta. But yeah, so it's just like, you want to be great, you gotta work crazy hard so that the greats can recognize, oh, you put the effort in, you did things the right way. So they were trying to teach us how to animate for feature films, and in feature films, this should be the standard. But then when I actually went out into real life working, I never worked on a feature animated film. I worked on kids' TV shows and e-learning games because those are the only jobs that were floating around at my level in Dublin at the time. So, that was really not about pushing the limits. It was just churn the footage out. So when I was working on one animated TV show, the way that the producers, the coordinator kind of separated out the scenes was like, okay, you get all these scenes because these are all solo scenes with that character and you're used to using that character. And then here's another character, you work on all of those scenes. And here's two characters interacting. You do all those scenes because you're a better animator or whatever. But one guy, when he had only one main character to work with, and it was the same one across many different scenes, it was just animate him talking as it's talking back and forth with different people. He would just copy and paste these eyebrow movements, this mouth flapping and blinks and whatever, from this scene to this scene to this scene. And he'd barely change it, and after a while he wouldn't change it at all. And he was spitting out 20-something seconds of animation a day, I think, which is just insane. It's okay, this is almost like AI is animating for you, but this is the time before AI. And all the other animators were absolutely appalled because we are trained animators. We can see exactly what's on the screen. He copy pasted his animation from here to there. But the producers are like, okay, fine, whatever. We just needed to check this box that all of this stuff that was not moving is now moving, and then we can hand it back to the TV studio to say that it's done. The TV studio doesn't require that it's done well. just requires this done and we delivered on time. So the producers were totally fine with the quality of animation that was copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. It's like this eyebrow, both eyebrows down, blink. And then it's just like mouth flapping. It's like not even matching the audio properly. I mean, I think he did adjust it so it wasn't so bad. But the eyebrows are exactly the same every time. I was like, you wouldn't even change, a little bit, tweak it. And he's just like, what's the point? They don't care. Nobody cares. They just, And I was appalled. I was shocked. This went against everything that I learned, especially from the Pixar guys that I studied with online. But, this guy who was like copy paste and stuff, he got far in the animation scene in Dublin because he was just getting hired for loads of stuff because he was just somebody who could churn out loads of seconds of animation. I think the only thing that stopped other animators from doing that was being taught you have a standard and trying to adhere to that standard and feeling like copy paste is cheating and slimy and you're not really doing your job. But in terms of the producers, it was doing the job. So, who's wrong here? That's kind of a bit of my work background before I got into tech. And, tech was just about getting the job done right. Like you hit the button, it passes or it fails. And there's metrics and stuff. So, once it works, it works. But it has to work 100%. It can't work like 90% of the time, 80% of the time. That's not good enough. But it should work 100% of the time when you write some code. There shouldn't be bugs. And then once it's done, move on, There is no 80%, whether an audience notices or not. It's just like, is it done right or is it not done right? So this mentality kind of fit me really well when I was working in tech. Fast forward to, 6 months ago or so when I started trying my YouTube career, and I'm just trying really hard to make videos that I don't cringe at. And I knew I had a problem with perfectionism and trying too hard with my videos, high retention editing, too much time editing. And I started this second YouTube channel, this podcast, as a way for me to practice speaking more so I can get better on the camera and also log my thoughts and kind of share my ideas and more of the behind the scenes journey. But it was also a low pressure way for me to create something that I can publish more frequently. So it was planned where, okay, once a week, I will spend a morning just sharing what I learned from last week, edit it quickly, post it, and then carry on with my main channel work. But somehow my perfectionism, it made that grow. So it's instead of being a morning, it became a whole day, sometimes a day and a half, because I would re-record because I wasn't happy with something before. And I was like, oh my God, this is ballooning into a whole separate project where this was supposed to be something to help me stay fresh and loose. I don't know, just not over polished, because my problem with my main channel is I'm overworking things. And then I started to overwork this second channel. I thought, okay, this is becoming not what I want it to be. Let's bring it back to the half a day, fresh, clean process that I wanted it to be. So then I was like, okay, let's aim for Hank Green's 80% rule. Just get it 80% good, publish, move on to the next video, move on to the next project or whatever. But I was just but how do I do that? I don't know how. I'm a perfectionist. I feel like if I don't do these things, I'm just letting it be bad. What is 80%? Where is 80%? I feel like perfectionism is almost like an addiction. And if you just tell somebody, just stop it, what does that mean? How do you do that? I don't know how to do that. If I knew how to do that, I would have done it already. So can you give me some more guidance on how not to be perfectionist? Then you say care less. I'm I also don't know how to do that. Like, the fact that I care so much is the reason why I'm annoyed with my perfectionism, because I know it's impacting the quality of everything badly. It's like too much effort for not as much return. Whereas if I just learn to be more loose and more playful with the thing, then it would be better. And I would feel better about it. And probably listening for you guys, it would be more fun too. The vibe would be different, I think. So one of my best friends, Kieran, listens to a podcast called The Wrecking Yard. And it's by this like older comedian in Texas. He just sits in a chair and tells stories like an old grandpa. And he has like his low, slow way of talking. It's very calming. And I don't know, like kind of helps you relax while you listen to it. And there's lots of pauses or just like silence. And then he'll just like take a deep breath and then more silence. And then like he'll carry on talking, like his train of thought. And I just thought, oh my God, like this is like a revelation for me almost, because I don't know, my YouTube algorithm is just like high retention editing, pop, 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 pop. People talking super fast, like, wasn't it? I don't know. I was going to say James Franco. I don't know. Philip DeFranco. There you go. This guy, blah, 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 And I was like, okay, I should talk like this. I mean, I'm listening to these YouTube videos talking about how to make great YouTube videos. Mr. Beast is saying, you need to edit out every single pause, every single silence in between your words. Otherwise, people will get bored and click away. So it has to be like, blah, 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 super hyper stimulating. So my main channel edits, I edit this way because, I don't know, it is high retention editing. And I think people like it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But then, this was supposed to be more chill podcast. And then those lessons kind of like seeped into this podcast too. And I felt like I was disrespecting the listener's time by leaving in these spaces, these pauses. So I was like going in, editing out all of my filler words, like editing out the pauses, anything that sounded like I was like repeating myself in my points a little bit, cut it out. I'd have 10 or 12 minutes like finished podcast audio out of my 40 minutes of recording. And I was like, okay, this is like the opposite of the wrecking yard. Like when it comes to like doing less and 80%, maybe it means like lean more like this wrecking yard guy. And just like slow down. Because even for me, I feel like in real life, when I'm talking to somebody who doesn't have any pauses when they're speaking, because they're afraid that the other person will cut in if they like leave any pauses. So they're just like, blah, 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 just like constantly words coming out. I find that really uncomfortable to listen to and a little bit anxiety inducing. And it's kind of like weird control dynamic happening. So I don't like it. So if I don't like that in my real everyday conversations, like why am I recreating this with my podcast where I'm like leaving no spaces? And then I thought like, maybe it is a bit anxiety inducing to listen to someone just like talking like too quickly all the time. And maybe I should include some pauses, some spaces. So just to try and get a metric on how much that I was like cutting out these pauses and spaces, I opened up DaVinci Resolve, which is my video editor program on my, like now it would be my 2 episodes ago podcast. It was like my longest episode, where it's like nearly half an hour. I found the window in my video editor that told me how many little clips I had turned my one long video clip into. So I recorded for like 50 minutes for that episode and edited it down to almost half an hour. But I turned that one big video clip into 296 small video clips, from cutting out all the pauses, cutting out repeat sentences, cutting out filler words, or coughing or whatever. That averaged out to 10 cuts a minute. So every 6 seconds I was cutting. So I could only talk fluently for like 6 seconds before in my own mind I was making a mistake and then like had to cut something again. So I was like, okay. I asked Gemini, how many cuts does like the Wrecking Yard guy make? And I was like, okay, this guy, if you want to have his pace, aim for between 1 and 3 cuts a minute. I was like, okay. So I'm trying to go from 10, I don't know, eventually 4. So I was like, okay, instead of just saying like, you know, be less perfectionistic or care less, I don't know what that means. But now I actually had a metric. Okay, go from 10 cuts a minute, slowly try and get it down to 4. So in my last video, my last podcast before this one, I tried to do that. I had that goal. So I recorded for about half an hour and I cut the video, and I was saying, okay, not every needs to be cut. Not every pause needs to be cut. Sometimes it is nice to have a little bit of a silence to indicate a change in chapter, you know. So I left a lot more stuff in there, and I really like, I felt resistance inside, like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Maybe the audience won't like this. And I'm like, well, it's an experiment. Go for it. I edited it very, very lightly, more lightly that I actually felt comfortable editing it. But it meant that the editing process was super quick compared to previous times. I published it, put it online. My girlfriend listened to it. I asked her, what did you think? Did you notice any more pauses? And she's like, I didn't really notice any difference compared to your previous episodes, apart from there was a longer pause at the end that I did notice. I was like, okay, you noticed one pause out of all of the pauses that I added, that I left in there compared to previous, and you didn't notice any change then. Because when I counted how many cuts that I had made in that video, the last video with all the pauses, it ends up being 4 cuts per minute. That's like hundreds of cuts less than I was doing previously, saving hours and hours of like checking. I cut, listen again. Did I cut enough? Cut. It's just like, okay, just more chill, just a few cuts, good enough, dunk. Yeah, she didn't really notice the difference. And I was just like, I hear a difference myself, but it feels like much calmer to listen to, which I enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed my other episodes too, what I was talking about. Maybe it fit better because a lot of times I was talking about anxiety. So it was like a 4D experience minus the 2 other Ds maybe. But it kind of made me realize, oh, I was doing all this extra work. Nobody told me to do it. I was doing it thinking it was leading to a better outcome. It wasn't. It was like too try hard, and it made the end product slower to produce and probably not as good. So I'm like happy to have learned that lesson. And I guess it's like when you're a perfectionist and you're just like overworking whatever your project is, it helps a lot to just have a metric of like what exactly it is that you're overdoing, and then just aim to do it less. Because then it doesn't feel like you're caring less. It feels like you're trying to learn to be more efficient and in a way more perfect in your working. So it's like how to brainwash yourself to say you're letting go of perfectionism is perfecting your process. I don't know. Something like this. because my goal is to just produce more regularly at a faster rate, and then I'll just get better over time. My best friend Maggie, who lives in Canada right now, when she was in college in Dublin, she always used to say, Chan, C's get degrees. You don't have to worry about it so much, you know. Study, but have fun too. And I was always like, you don't understand how much work you have to do. Well, I was doing animation, so it was true. But we're not in the animation bubble anymore. I'm not in the animation bubble anymore. I think, you know, that coworker that was like copying, pasting loads of stuff just to get more material, quote unquote, done. I think he would probably do really well on YouTube because it's just about the volume of getting stuff out there. And I'm still stuck in this like feature film mentality of like make it perfect, and it's like actually hurting me. I think that mentality works really well when I try and do software, like build something, you know, because it should be perfect. It shouldn't be buggy. It should work all the time. Take care of the edge cases. But for YouTube, it's not a good fit. And I feel like it's a real stretch of my personality to try and to be able to switch back and forth between those modes. It's like, okay, now we're going to be perfectionism mode. This has to be perfect. And now we're going to be 80% mode, just like volume. Somebody just came home. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hello, Mr. Charles.